Good morning everyone, new dawn, new day. There is a lot of incredible things about being a book influencer. I've met so many people, I get to talk about my love for books, but one of my favorite parts of it is receiving ARCs. It feels like Christmas when the postman knocks on my door. I'm so endlessly grateful that I get to receive mail from publishers and things like that. This is something that high school me could have only dreamt about. I am progressing so well with my physical TBR of books that I have bought. I think I only have like 2 or 3 books remaining that I haven't actually read that are on my bookshelf that I have purchased with my own money. But one thing is, I get sent a bunch of ARCs, and those are also on my physical TBR. Over the past 2 weeks, I think I've received about I want to say 4 or 5 different ARCs. I desperately need to get around to those, and so that's what we're going to be doing in this video. We are going to be reading a couple of the ARCs that I have recently been sent. I'm going to share my thoughts on them with you. Obviously this vlog is going to be spoiler free. The books I'm talking about will be releasing in October and potentially November of this year, so I'm not going to say too much about them. I've started to become really conscious as of this year about the books that I do request. They have to be books that I am genuinely planning on reading. But even with those metrics in place, I have a long list of books that I need to get to. As I'm filming this, the last book I just read was Alchemized, which I have a reading vlog for, but I decided I needed a sharp change of pace. I am definitely still in my fantasy mood. I do want to keep reading fantasy, but perhaps instead of a dark, emotional, tragic fantasy, we switch it up, maybe to a romantasy, maybe to a rom-com, and the perfect book arrived on my doorstep. That is The Princess Knight by Kate Jacobs. The reason I really badly wanted to read this is it's another Lady Knight book. I've really been on a Lady Knight kick this year, what with all of the wonderful new releases. I mean, we had The Knight and the Moth, one of my favorite books of all time, and then we had The Island, The Silver Sea, and The Second Death of Locke, which I was really fortunate to get to read those 2 early. But this is the next installment of the Lady Knight kind of craze that is going on. But the difference is that this is a medieval fantasy rom-com, and it's actually based on Legally Blonde because it follows a princess of a medieval kingdom who, I think the prince that she wants to marry breaks up with her so he can go to a military academy for knights, like where they train knights. She's heartbroken, she follows him there, and she trains as a knight. What a concept. I am expecting this to be hilarious. I am expecting the Legally Blonde vibes mixed with my favorite genre, fantasy. Like, that is elite. I'm gonna get real cozy, gonna read this, and I will be back to update you, let's say at around 30% in. I'm going to give you a little update of what has happened so far. I'm just over 1/3 of the way into this book, and if you know the bones of the Legally Blonde plotline, it's the exact same thing that's going on. This is set in a medieval kingdom which is very Irish inspired. Princess Clea is supposed to be getting betrothed to Prince Donal, who is from a neighboring kingdom, and this is like a political match, although Donal and Clea have been friends since they were children. But Donal calls the engagement off. He says he needs a queen who is more fiery, more decisive, more formidable, and he basically just says to Clea, you're nothing more than a pretty face. Like, my kingdom is not going to accept you and your kingdom. And keep in mind that Clea's kingdom is very indulgent, opulent, just focused on image. It's not considered to be a strong kingdom, and the problem is the kingdoms of this fictional land are under threat from some enemies. Clea is suitably heartbroken about this, so she decides to follow Donal to a military academy where they train knights. The second point of view we get in this story is that of Ronan, and Ronan is captain of Prince Donal's guard. He grew up with Prince Donal, they're good friends. He doesn't particularly like Clea or her kingdom because he views them as, once again, like really indulgent, not really caring about their people and all of that. I feel like there's a deeper reason that we'll get into later, but so far that's what we know of Ronan. Ronan and Donal are going together to this military academy. I feel that it's very, I don't want to say insta-lusty because there's no lust, but they get along a little too well with each other. When I heard this Ronan guy did not like Clea or her kingdom, I was expecting a bit of grumpy sunshine. I was expecting a bit of brooding. No, they're immediately good friends. And I'm like, well, then there's no tension. Where's the tension? The second issue is I wish we got to see a little more of this military academy where they train knights. We're seeing little snippets, but we're really not seeing enough. It is moving at a really fast pace, as in Clea's development and her training and whatnot. And I'm usually so down with a fast-paced book, but I really would like to take our time here because, to me at least, this is like an important part of the plotline. It's her character development, and if that's sped through a lot, I just feel like it doesn't hit the same. I'm liking it. I think it's sitting at around 3 stars right now because it's very enjoyable, very bingeable, but there are a couple of things that I wish were done a little better. But I'm going to be setting this book aside for tonight because, guys, I just saw that Jay Shetty has done an episode with Emma Watson. Like, it just came out a few hours ago. I haven't heard a peep out of her for like years at this point, and she's on Jay Shetty, and it's such a full circle moment. You guys know, massive Potterhead. Love Emma Watson. I think she's one of the most inspiring examples for young women. But Jay Shetty, his podcast actually helped me a lot when I had depression. So this is like my two worlds colliding, and I'll be back tomorrow to update you on how this book is going. I think we'll be I anticipate I'm going to finish this book really quickly. I might even finish it tomorrow just because it is such a quick and easy read. I'll see you then. Did I say I would update you 2/3 in? Because I definitely am not. I have finished reading this book. I feel like it's really easy to fly through books like this. You know, with a cozy fantasy rom-com, I speed through them, and it's 24 hours since I last saw you, so it's been plenty of time for me to get through this book completely. Even though it is surprisingly long at 500 pages, it doesn't feel that long at all. It's quick, it's easy to fly through, it feels very YA. In fact, I'm not actually sure, but I would categorize this personally as YA. I'm not sure how it's been marketed. It is fun enough. However, I think I'm gravitating more towards 3 stars for this book, which isn't a bad rating at all, but it does mean I found it to be a little bit mid. The first third is our main character Clea getting rejected by her betrothed and following him to the military knight academy, where she eventually begins to be trained by Ronan. And the second part is pretty much just a chunk of development in Clea's character, but also in her relationship with Ronan. And then the final third has a lot of plot in it. It's dealing with like the politics or the threat of war from neighboring kingdoms, and I actually found that part to be pretty interesting. I think there was so much potential in the concept. I'm just a little let down by the execution. The first thing is I wish this was actually a trilogy or a duology. I love a fast-paced book, don't get me wrong, but if we are skimming over large chunks of world building, character building, relationship building, then it doesn't make sense to have it all crammed into one book. I would much rather see a series where everything can be fleshed out a little more. Like, the romance was not particularly convincing to me. I think it moved a little too quickly, and because it moved quickly, we got to a point after they kissed or whatever where they were like, oh, we shouldn't. That annoys me. I wish there had been more time invested into that. And then of course with the like political warrior kind of plotline, that suddenly kicked in as well. And I just feel, had this been a series, had it been longer, there could have been better attention devoted to each aspect of this story. Also, the side characters, I think they're really interesting, and I would love to see a bit more of them. Again, not really possible if we're putting it all into one book. So ultimately, I felt like this book was trying to do so much more than it actually managed to do. But yeah, those are my thoughts on The Princess Knight. Thank you so much for this copy, Harper Voyager. And I'm going to shift gears really rapidly for our next book. It's been a long time. It's been a long time. I've been thinking about this book in the back of my mind, and I'm so glad I finally get to read her. This is Eternal Ruin by Tegest Germer. If you look at my TikToks from maybe about this time a year ago, I was talking a lot about Immortal Dark by Tegest Germer. Think about this. A girl's sister goes missing, so she must travel to an elite vampire academy to find out what happened to her sister. But here's the catch, she also must live with the same vampire she suspects of kidnapping her sister. Black vampires make it dark academia. That's the easiest thing I can tell you about that book, and my god, it was good. This is the second book in that series, Eternal Ruin. Let's have a read. I have high hopes. After the high bar that Immortal Dark set, I'm expecting a lot from this book. a third of the way in. I'm absolutely loving this book. Good writing is back. Dark academia is back. Vampires are back. I'm not gonna lie, I was a bit nervous heading into this because I can't fully remember what happened in Immortal Dark, but I'm all caught up now. There is a bit of internal turmoil at the university as well as outside of it, so there are a couple of things that happened in the previous book that are still being addressed. There are characters that have shown their faces at the end of the last book. We're really getting into that. So basically there's a lot of chaos, there's a lot of change happening right now, and Kidan needs to cope with that. And then of course there's the underlying thing with like her and Susenyos. Then there's a bunch of mystery as well. Overall it feels it feels like exactly what I want when I think vampire story. When I hear Vampire Academy, like that is what I want to see. And I'm loving it. I'm also liking the incorporation of like myths and folklore and things like that. I can't obviously speak to whether this is like a real mythology or made up for the story, but it's so cool to see that come together in this way. I wanted to give you a little somewhat tired book update. The tension is so good, and I'm not just talking in like a romance sense, but also just in the fact that there is a mystery that Kidan and Susenyos like desperately need to get to the bottom of. There are lots of secrets being kept. I literally can't say anything without giving away spoilers, but I'm really, really liking this. And just like that, we're done. I think this is going to be a harder book to give a review for, just because it is the second book in a series, and the second book of a series that isn't, I think, as well known. So trying to do this spoiler and context free will be a bit difficult, but I ended up giving this book 4 stars. I thought it was absolutely amazing. There were so many things that I loved about book 1. The dark academia-esque atmosphere. It was dark, it was spooky, it was mysterious. I loved the references to culture and mythology and how they tied into the story. I loved the tension between our main character Kidan and her house vampire Susenyos. Every single thing that I loved about that carried over to this book. I really enjoyed the pacing of the story, and there was this underlying mystery that kind of just kept you gripped. Tension wise, that mystery really helps to keep the tension in the story going, and for it not to like really lull or lag or anything like that. The pacing was great. Did I say that? I think I said that. Susenyos and Kidan, I'm enjoying the evolution over the past 2 books of their relationship. When I say slow burn, I mean it. I'm enjoying getting to explore new characters and their perspectives, and something happened at the end of this book that like I need a handwritten apology for. I need the next book right now. I thought this was absolutely excellent. It comes out in November. That's all I can really say about this book, but perfect. And it's absolutely perfect for like the season right now. Yes, it's spring, I know, but the second we get to like October and November, it really just feels like vampire season. So if you like dark academia, if you like vampires, if you just like a well-written fantasy book, I think you need to keep an eye out for this series because it's absolutely wonderful and so perfect for the time right now. That is all for this week. Thank you so much for reading my arcs with me. I still have about 20 arcs to get through. I'll get around to those one day, maybe some other day. Thank you. I'll see you next time. Goodbye.